new commissioner of Major League Baseball on the outset of the 2015 season. Joining me here now on the Rich Eisen Show, Rob Manfred. Commissioner, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, Rich. I'm glad to do it.
Thank you. So what would the kid from Rome, New York think about being the commissioner of Major League Baseball on the outset of a Major League Baseball season? What would that young man think?
Well, my overwhelming thought right now is just I'm so excited to get going with real games and playing baseball again. You know, it's been a long and busy winter here in New York, and I really am anxious to have the game back on the field.
So what for a fan wondering what Rob Manfred, the commissioner, is trying to take to the field, to the game, what is Major League Baseball going to look like under your administration, do you think?
Well, I would say two things, Rich. First of all, we've undertaken and are going to continue to undertake efforts to improve the pace of the game. We got some interesting things going on this year in terms of the between inning clock and the batter's box rule, and we're experimenting with some other things in AA and AAA. The second thing I think you're going to see is we have a great asset in MLB.com, MLB Advanced Media, and I think particularly in our broadcast, but in stadiums as well, I think you're going to see a continuing trend towards the use of technology to enhance the game, deepen the engagement of our fans with the game, not to distract them from it, but to make them understand better what's going on the field.
How do you view replay? Do you think it can be expanded more than it currently is instituted in Major League Baseball?
I'm pretty comfortable with where we are in replay. I was thrilled with the rollout last year. I thought the technology, again, provided by Advanced Media was outstanding. I thought that the speed of the replays, the length of time it took was really good. And once we got past that little catch-no-catch problem at the beginning of the season, I thought it worked very well. Now, we've added a few plays this year, and I think that's what you're going to see going forward, an incremental addition of additional types of plays.
Well, because, obviously traditionalists don't like it. Anything that maybe even to speed up the pace of play, don't like it. Certainly the concept of a pitch clock potentially being worked into baseball, folks don't like it. And, I just know what working as I have for and with the commissioner of the National Football League for such a long time, everything's on the table in the NFL, with the extra points maybe even being changed this year. Everything is on the table. And I'm wondering if that's the philosophy that you might have, despite what traditionalists might say.
Well, look, when we talk about changes in the game on the field, we do proceed with caution. We have an advantage that the NFL doesn't have in that we have the Arizona Fall Leagues and minor league baseball that provides us with a great testing ground. And we are open to the idea that the game should continue to evolve and modernize, always respecting its history and tradition. But I'll give you a great example about the clocks. When we sat with a committee of longtime on-field guys and thought about ideas to improve pace of game, the pitch clock idea came up. And, we had a pretty split house on it. Some people liked it. A lot of the older line guys did not. But when they had a chance to see it in the Arizona Fall League and see how it worked and see how the game felt with that clock in place, we had unanimity on the idea that we should go forward, continue the experiment in AA and AAA. And I think that vignette is an example of how baseball is willing to change and evolve going forward.
Well, how about a clock on like, say, Big Papi Cadillacing around the bases after hitting a home run? Is there a home run trot clock that's in your bag of tricks?
I have to tell you that so far, David has not been the biggest proponent of pace of game changes, so maybe we'll stay with the ones that we have in place right now.
Very good. The commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, is with me here on the Rich Eisen Show. The Pete Rose petition that is, I imagine, on your desk somewhere, where does that currently stand about his petition to come back into the good graces of Major League Baseball?
Well, we're going to reach out to Mr. Rose's representatives, agree on a process We're going to review all the files, going back through the Dowd report, all the material that Commissioner Giamatti had in front of him when the agreement was reached with Pete. And then we're going to agree with Pete's representatives about a process for him to provide me with whatever he thinks is relevant to my consideration of the issue. My intention is to give as complete and thorough a process to Mr. Rose as possible, and then make a decision.
In terms of relevant to the decision, I know we in the media talk about the location of this year's All-Star game. The fact that sitting there right in the middle of July would be a spot, should you choose to allow him back in some fashion, to uncork it. Is that a consideration, that Cincinnati is outside of the All-Star game?
I don't really see the Cincinnati All-Star game as a real consideration in terms of timing. We've already had conversations with Bob Castellini, the owner of the Reds. We have a general understanding that Pete's going to be allowed to participate in the activities surrounding the All-Star game. We're in the process of working out the details of that participation. So given that we've put that behind us already, I don't feel any pressure one way or the other from the Cincinnati date.
Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred here on the Rich Eisen Show. In a couple minutes I have with you left, I want to talk about the Tommy John surgery. I don't know, I don't want to call it an epidemic because I don't really have the numbers in front of me. It's just one name after another. A young pitcher, Aaron Crow, the latest today, former Royal, now Miami Marlin, the third Miami Marlin to undergo this surgery in recent days. This big name, one after another after another. Is this something that Major League Baseball is looking at, even at the youth level, to try and get from the ground up wrapping your arms around the Tommy John surgery, rash of surgeries that are befalling a lot of your game stars?
Well, early last year, we put together a committee of some of the leading orthopedists in the game to look at this very issue because we were concerned about the numbers. Interestingly, one of the first things they came back to us with is that some of our problem may be occurring before players actually become professionals. That is, while they're still amateurs. Issues about how amateur pitchers are being used, and increasing trends towards specialization among young people, that is playing baseball more year-round. And so the very first thing we did was we partnered with USA Baseball to develop a program called Pitch Smart. It's all about educating people who work in the amateur space as to how pitchers need to be used, how they shouldn't be used, to make sure that we have minimized the problems in the amateur space. We haven't stopped there. We have a 6-club study. And when I say club, I mean the entire organization, top to bottom. We're following all the pitchers in that organization. We're reviewing medical records, doing biomechanical studies to look at how they deliver and pitch, and trying to identify whether there are other factors that are significant in terms of whether or not a player is going to have a Tommy John surgery. Obviously, Tommy John is effective, but it's tremendously costly and disruptive for the industry and our fans in terms of not having great young pitchers out there on a continuous basis, and we want to do everything we can to solve this problem.
Yeah, and Commissioner, any industry trying to cut through the static and trying to get headlines in this world, which is what it's all about, growing a sport and being being the commissioner of a sport that is the national pastime in many people's minds, is having young stars be out there on the field, and the Cubs have a young star that is going to be spending the first 2 weeks in Iowa, and a lot of people think that it has nothing to do with the development of Chris Bryant. It's because of the Cubs using, as is their right, the service time rule to keep him under contract deeper into his future. Do you see any change to the service time issue based on the Chris Bryant case and what's happening right now with the Cubs, Commissioner?
Rich, this is actually an issue that we've talked extensively about at the bargaining table over multiple rounds. And the real problem is, as long as you have a seniority-based system, a service time-based system, there's going to be a line somewhere. And people are going to manage to that line in order to maximize the competitiveness of their franchise over the long haul, which is exactly what the Cubs are trying to do. It's their right, and what they're trying to make sure is that they're competitive for as long as possible with a very talented young player under control. I'm sure it will be a topic of conversation. But I think coming up with a realistic solution in the context of a seniority-based system is really difficult.
Commissioner, I know that your time is limited, and I appreciate the time that you've given me to the show. I hope you come back soon. I love the sport. It is in my blood. I can't wait to talk about it every day on this show. And, I'm excited to have you on. So thank you for calling in.
Whenever you call, Rich, we'll make every effort to be with you. I really enjoyed it, and I wish you the best of luck.
Commissioner, thank you so much. That is Rob Manfred.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.